How Russia plans to upgrade its bomber force. The Russians regularly overestimate their manufacture of modern military weaponry. They go from unveiling prototypes to trumpeting production to a joyous delivery to the troops, all in an overly expedited method. It appears that their plans for a new stealth bomber, called the pak-da, are caught up in various levels of excitement. Pak-da, is this stealth bomber real? Last summer, Russian state-run media reported the pak-da will be ready with a demo version by 2023. The release also refers to the projected stealth bomber as being surrounded by a network of drones and even able to launch a hypersonic missile. This braggadocio has to be deemed premature because there is not much evidence that the airplane is real. The Russians do not have the best stealth technology. It seems to reason that the Russians desire, or need, a stealth bomber. The Americans have their B-21 Raider, while the Chinese have their H-20. The Russians are positioned in third place in terms of building their own indigenously made bomber with radar-evading properties. Not much is known about the pak-da. What we know about the pak-da is sparse. It is formed like a flying wing when analyzing the latest artist rendering. The airplane is reported to be subsonic and will include an array of bombs, cruise missiles, and potentially hypersonic weaponry in its payload. The full-size mock-up is said to be built of wood, which is another reason to be skeptical that the airplane would make it to a flying technology demonstrator anytime soon. Even the Russian acquisition leaders are less than certain. The Ministry of Industry and Trade of the Russian Federation, Denis Manturov, has gone on record about Russia's stealth bomber program, and he remains ambiguous. When pressed directly by Interfax about the sixth-generation pak-da and how it will compare to the B-21, Manturov was cagey at best. As intended, a complex of experimental design work is being implemented. Together with the customer, the appearance of the aircraft was established. To the contract and the master timetable, the stage-by-stage transfer of working design documents to the manufacturer is ongoing. At the production plant itself, the collective assembly of prototypes has begun. Of course, we set ourselves the aim of building technology that surpasses the technology of other countries in terms of capabilities, he remarked. Is this thing made of wood right now? The Russians believe that the wooden prototype will have greater technology than the competitors, which is easy to say and more difficult to accomplish. Their stealth capabilities are seen as behind the Americans and Chinese. The Russians may have miniature pak-da models that are going through wind tunnel testing. They also have to create a new engine, which the acquisition leadership says is underway today. They have indicated that the airplane will be ready for deployment by around 2027. 5 years to go from a wooden prototype with no full engine could be a bridge too far. It is considerably more likely the stealth bomber would not be completed until 2030. It is illustrative to analyze the Russian stealth fighter program, the Su-57, to forecast how the pak-da will do. A sad stealth history. It took 2 decades to develop a stealth fighter. Wondering why Russia has it tough when it comes to stealth technology? The Su-57 stealth fighter program is a superb example of Moscow's stealth challenges. The Su-57 began development in 2002, and only 12 have been delivered to the Russian Air Force. So that is 20 years from research and development to delivery for the stealth aircraft. Perhaps the Russians have learned more about stealth technology from the Su-57 program that can be transferred to the pak-da, but that remains to be seen. Especially because the pak-da prototype is now constructed of wood. Transformation of tactics. But the Russians will undoubtedly continue work on the pak-da. It could revolutionize tactics for the Russian Air Force. A stealth bomber could dodge NATO anti-aircraft systems or stay out of range and launch standoff weapons to eliminate radar or command and control centers. The hypersonic weapon capability would make it important to the Russian aircraft fleet. It could become nuclear capable as well. The pak-da may play quarterback and be connected to unmanned bombers and autonomous tankers to expand the bomber's range. And what if the pak-da is not that stealthy and functions as a missile truck instead of flying past opposing air defense systems? Without radar-evading qualities, the pak-da would have a speedier acquisition cycle. Could the bomber have a bigger payload than American bombers? But the pak-da may have a bigger payload than other American bombers, such as the B-2 or B-1. It makes it obvious that the Russians would want a larger strategic airplane. One thing the Russians could do is deploy the K-47M2 Kinzhal on the pak-da. This is Russia's hypersonic glide vehicle that can go MACH-10. Alas, this is purely guesswork until the pak-da program is developed further. It is too early to determine now what the Russians will build. But if developed by the end of the decade and placed into service, it has advantages such as threatening NATO with standoff missiles, evading radar in a contested environment, and firing hypersonic missiles. But right now, it has to be considered more of an idea than a genuine airplane.